Welcome to Character Craft. I'm your host, Mitchell Drake. We're going to get another randomly decided D&D character going. Let's see how many classes we're going to be stuck with. I'm really enjoying this so far, so I'm hoping we can keep it going. Custom subclass. All right, we're going to have fun with this one. Let's go over to this wheel. I make a few of these before. I really like making custom subclasses. I think they keep the game fresh, and I like when my players trying to get them going. Rogue. Okay, yeah, we can make a custom subclass for a rogue. I think I might have a prototype for this. I think I called it the Swindler. I'm going to see if I can dig that up somewhere and brush it up a little bit, polish it off, see if it's worth presenting, and we'll go from there. I'm excited to do the first custom subclass, and we will get this going. I will meet you at the Forge. Here we are at the Forge. We're going to build a character as well with our new subclass, just to breathe some life and give it some personality, and we're just going to hop right in. I think the most important part of making a subclass is that it should be unique when compared to the other subclasses. There's no point in recreating something that has already been done unless it's to make it better. And this isn't too difficult with the rogue subclasses, because the rogue is such a strong class on its own that most of the subclasses are really just there to add a bit of flair to things you're already doing. Some exceptions being things like the swashbuckler or the mastermind that do change the playstyle or the strategy, but those are going to be the exceptions. I took inspiration from Forge Fitzwilliam, Hugh Grant's rogue character in the most recent D&D movie, which I actually really enjoyed. We don't really have an existing rogue subclass that Forge can slot into easily. At face value, you might be able to argue the mastermind or the thief, but under scrutiny, those subclass features aren't really relevant to Forge's character, so I've created the Swindler subclass. The Swindler adds a definitive social option for rogue players who also want to be the face of the party, a character whose tongue is just as sharp as their blades and whose wit is their first line of offense. At level 3, you will be given 2 features once you take the subclass, the first being Right Time and Face. This feature will give you proficiency in the disguise and forgery kits if you don't already have them, and gives you the opportunity to learn new languages very quickly, to expand your pool of potential marks and be able to communicate with them effectively. There are some time restraints on the learning of a new language that are similar to the infiltration expertise feature from the assassin subclass. That feature feels lackluster, it comes at an odd point in the game, and the cost isn't worth the reward. I felt this is more balanced and more relevant earlier in the game. To learn a new language at a novice level, you would need to spend an hour observing conversations or reading extensive documentation that exclusively uses that new language. It will be obvious to those that are fluent in the language that you aren't an expert, but you would be able to communicate with them on a basic level. You can also read and write the language at a novice level too. To learn a new language at an expert level, you would need to repeat the process for 7 consecutive days for the same language. Afterwards, you would be able to speak, read, and write the language fluently. The learning of a new language is really exciting to me as a DM. It means I don't have to introduce every character as someone who speaks Common or speaks a language the party already has access to. I think it adds a bit of reality to the world building, and the time restrictions on the feature doesn't make it something game-breaking. It gives rogues something non-aggressive to do during downtime and might even encourage inter-party communication if the rogue wants to learn a language another member already speaks fluently. The second feature we get at level 3 is In Charm's Way. This gives us a new way to use our sneak attack feature in addition to the normal ways. You're able to use sneak attack against creatures who are charmed by you, or that you have made a successful deception check against within 1 minute of the attack. And I like this. I think it makes sense that a charmed or deceived creature would lower their guard around you, and that would give you the opportunity to make a devastating attack against them. This feature also gives us a handful of spells that will help live up to the Swindler title. More spells become available to us as we gain more levels in the subclass, and we can only use them once per long rest with the exception of the Friend's Cantrip, which can be cast normally. Charisma is going to be our spellcasting ability for the spells, and they can only be cast at their base levels. The full spell list is Friends, Distort Value, Suggestion, Compulsion, Modify Memory, and Sending. Friends is a high-risk, high-reward cantrip that will take some forethought to use optimally because the creature automatically knows that you cast the spell on them after it ends. Distort Value fits into our Swindler theme by letting us haggle effectively, Suggestion and Modify Memory at higher levels to really sell our skill as a master manipulator, and most importantly, we get the Sending spell, which fits nicely into the features of this class. The Sending spell lets you send a 25-word message to a creature you're familiar with. The message has an unlimited range, and it can even be sent to other planes of existence with only a small chance of failure. I'd argue this would be a great way to help maintain your 7 days of immersion in a new language when trying to learn a new one, but more importantly, you get this spell at level 9 along with the new feature, Favored by Friends. Favored by Friends lets you maintain the Charmed effect on a creature as long as you stay within regular, friendly contact with them. To keep the effect active, you need to communicate with the charmed individual at least once a week, and after 3 in-game months of this communication, you can begin to ask them favors. They will still not act in any way that directly harms themselves, but they are willing to perform grand acts of service for you to maintain the relationship. This may include pulling strings to allow you access to a high-profile event, secretly housing your party to avoid capture, sending reinforcements to a battle, or potentially threatening war with a rival nation on your behalf. The difficulty check depends on your DM's discretion, although it should lower the longer you maintain communication without requesting a favor. Once a favor has been requested, whether it was approved or denied, you cannot request another favor from that character without an additional 3 months of communication being completed. I love this concept, and around this level the party will be taking on much larger threats, and it wouldn't be strange that they would be interacting with characters that hold a lot of power over regions and resources. The constant communication with these characters lets the DM expand on the current state of their affairs and well-being, lets your players grow attached to characters that aren't physically on the battlefield with them, and gives your players access to a get-out-of-jail-free option if there is a large enough task and they don't want to spend too much time on it. Plus, having the rogue write these letters would be immersive for them. They chose this subclass, so I assume they want to roleplay a suave character in some ways. This rewards them for doing that, even if the party is on some remote mountain hundreds of miles away from civilization. And a 25-word message is not that hard to make if, they use the sending spell. Don't budge on that. If they want to write longer messages, let them send a letter the standard way, but keep travel time in mind if no magic or other resources are used to guarantee the speed of the arrival. At 17th level, you gain the Feared by Foes feature, which lets you attempt to frighten an enemy and other creatures within 15 feet of that enemy when you apply your sneak attack damage to them. They have to make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC, and the frightened effect lasts until the end of your next turn if they fail the saving throw. I think it's pretty cool. I like to imagine that your false reputation is so widely known that it genuinely stuns enemies with fear once they realize what you're capable of. You can also extend the frightened effect on creatures you have used your Feared by Foes feature on in the same manner that you extend the Charmed effect with your Favored by Friends feature. The creature will remain frightened of you as long as you maintain the same weekly contact, but you can threaten them with a demand instead of requesting a favor from them. I just think that's funny. You also get the Modify Memory spell at this level, so I think you could successfully exaggerate the memory of your attack against them to create a fantastically wild rumor of yourself through the target. For the character I've created for the subclass, I've made them a Tabaxi. I'm going to justify it in the gameplay, but I was really just thinking of the Khajiit in Skyrim. I think they fit the subclass really well, and I was happy to see that the Tabaxi racial features lined up nicely with the concept. They have Dark Vision and Cat's Talent, which gives us free perception and stealth skills, but I really love the Feline Agility feature with the subclass. I didn't give a range on the new way to activate Sneak Attack within Charm's Way, meaning you can charm them the first turn with friends, attack them on the following turn for Sneak Attack, activate Feline Agility to double your speed until the end of the turn, and dash using Cunning Action to effectively quadruple your base 30 feet movement speed. The Tabaxi's Cat Claws also gives us a 20 feet climbing speed, so you can even move vertically to hide or get away. Feline Agility comes with the downside of a 0-foot movement speed on the following turn, but you're going to be so far gone it should be fine as long as you aren't in an open field. You can take feats like Actor and Inspiring Leader along the way. They work great with this subclass, since we'll be pumping Charisma second for a higher spell save DC anyway. Actor will almost guarantee us our deception checks along with Expertise in the early levels, and that will make it a minimum of 18 without even including your Charisma modifier. Inspiring Leader will give your party a good amount of extra protection with temporary health, and your party members, being the only ones who know from the start that you're full of crap, might enjoy a brief monologue from a Swindler. I'm going to name the character Barnaby Whiskfull. Barnaby was raised in a prominent and wealthy family of tradesmen in his home country. He was groomed at an early age to take on the family business from his mother upon his 23rd birthday. This upbringing entailed extensive international travel and sitting in on high-profile trade deals. A proper demeanor was required of him at all times. After all, his actions reflected the actions of the family and the company. Barnaby loved the lavish lifestyle, and as the head of the company, he began making more and more rash decisions in order to make more money faster. He didn't see the need to go after numerous small fish when whales could take a quarter of the time. This eventually led to a falling out between one of their main suppliers, the dwarvish craftsman who created a majority of the weapons, fortifications, and necessities of the local kingdoms. He was purposely having low-quality duplicates of their wares being distributed as the dwarves' creation, while selling the real pieces to underground buyers. The dwarves discovered this and were reasonably furious that Barnaby would slander their reputation in the name of money. Dwarves are not likely to forgive, and they absolutely never forget. This led to Barnaby's mother coming out of retirement, regaining control of the company, and ousting Barnaby to make amends with the dwarves. Barnaby was also excommunicated from the family and their resources, leaving him in poverty for the first time in his life. Now he travels with nothing but his wits and a dagger to support himself. He will return to his former lifestyle, no matter the cost to anyone else. I'm pretty happy with how this subclass turned out. I think it adds a unique playstyle to the base rogue class and an awesome role-playing opportunity. Let me know if you would play the subclass. I've left a link for the written version of the subclass in the description below if you'd like to read it. I'd love to hear your feedback on it if you play it or if one of your players use it in their game. And thank you so much for watching the video. I look forward to seeing you again, and I hope you sleep well.